talking this time with Tom Genovese. Tom is the Senior Marketing Manager with Mid-Continent Instruments. And a couple of things that you guys introduced this week for the show. One of those is something that anybody who has one of these is probably going to be pretty happy to hear about. Tell us about the USB chargers.
All right, so we came out and announced the TA202, which is a high-power USB charging port. And sounds pretty simple, but as you said, more and more passengers are demanding to have power to the seat so that they could charge their personal electronic devices during flight. And so the TA202 actually meets those requirements. And what's unique about it is that you have the option of either going with Type A type port that we're very familiar with, that's been around for several years now. And we also introduced a Type C port, which is like the next generation of USB ports. And with our particular product, you could either combine the two with a Type A and a Type C, or you could keep them as just a single port, depending on what the passenger preference is. So,
you wouldn't think that it would be a big process to certify something like this for an aircraft, but that's probably not the case. What was the certification process like for something that really is as simple as a USB port?
Yeah, so it is a pretty simple process. We actually go through a DO-160 testing and also apply for a TSO approval. And we just received our TSO approval last Friday, and that approval makes it a pretty straightforward process for the installer to get it installed into the aircraft. That's really the big difference between our product and some of the other products that are available. A lot of people joke around about going down to a local convenience store and just picking up a USB port for $15, using it into their aircraft. But one of the things that the DO-160 testing allows us to do is to build protection and circuitry in the unit that when you install it in your aircraft and you're charging a device and you press the push to talk for the comm radio, you don't have any interference that bleeds over to the comm. So it is an FAA approved unit, and it works solid in your aircraft installation.
How will that process change as they rewrite Part 23 and we start looking at a more streamlined, standards-based certification process?
For a product like this, I don't really see that process making it any easier or any more difficult to go ahead and do. I think the thing is that customers will still want the FAA TSO approval. They'll still want the testing to make sure that there is no interference caused by this particular unit with some of the other existing panel-mounted radios and things like that. So unfortunately for this product, I don't think that the rewrite is really going to help us out that much.
Do you have a STC for each particular type of airplane, or do you have an approved model list?
Now this one, this particular product is installed basically as a minor alteration. So a lot of cases, it's basically just a logbook entry. There are companies out there that have done STCs, and we see STCs being done for larger aircraft. One of the first generation USB charging port, we're actually seeing them installed in everything from Beach Bonanzas all the way up to Boeing 777. So it's a pretty exciting product, and it's really opened some new doors for us.
Well, let's move on and talk a little bit about the new power converters that you introduced at the show this week as well. Why do you need a power converter in an airplane?
Real good question. And the particular TC120 that we announced at AEA's new product introduction, this was one of those little side projects that our engineering team was working on, and we were working pretty closely to an OEM aircraft manufacturer that brought up in conversation about a year ago asking if we made a DC to DC converter. And at that time we were kind of looking for our next product to go ahead and design and manufacture. And we started looking at the TC120 and how it would fit into the market. So your question was, why is it needed? And there's a lot of aircraft out there where the equipment today is like 28 volts, but they have to convert it down to run some of the equipment that's on board. So in a particular situation is that there was an OEM that had 14 volt fuel pumps on the aircraft, but they had a 28 volt power supply. So they're using our TC120 to convert 28 volts down to 14 volts to run the fuel pump. Once we came out with this particular product, then we started looking at other opportunities like seat warmers, for like business class seats and things like that. So it really, once we came out, got the TSO approval and started shipping it, we started finding new opportunities that we weren't even aware of when we first started designing the product. So it's been pretty interesting.
What are some of those other opportunities, and what else do people use them for?
So the big one was about 3 weeks ago, we were at the Aircraft Interior Expo in Hamburg, Germany. And there were some seat manufacturers that came up and said, we need a converter like this for seat heaters, for motors in the seat to lay the seats flat and things like that. And yeah, it was just one of those things that we never even looked at that as an opportunity for this particular product. But after attending that show, yeah, we have a list of different opportunities that we're going after now. So,
but you also do a converter that goes from DC to AC.
We do go from 28, well, it's an inverter, so we go from 28 volts to 115 so that you could go ahead and have wall outlet power in your aircraft. And once again, anybody that wants to bring a personal electronic device onto the aircraft where you have 28 volts but you want 115, the inverters that we manufacture, everything from 250 watts all the way up to 1200 watts, meet that type of requirement so that you could go ahead and charge up your laptop or other, we see our inverters working with microwave ovens and other appliances like that you would find on a business jet. And
finally, one of the things that True Blue Power was originally best known for are auxiliary power systems, batteries, for lack of a better word. What's new in your battery world?
So we flew down here in our Beechcraft Bonanza, and this was the first flight from Wichita to Orlando with our new TB17. It's a lithium iron phosphate battery. And the benefit of it is that it's about a 50% weight savings. It recharges faster, has more cranking power. And one of the things that our chief pilot, Ryan Reed, noticed is that the engine started a lot quicker than when we were using the original lead acid battery. So benefits like that, less weight, better cranking power, less maintenance required. This battery is really going to take off in a lot of new aircraft. In fact, at the helicopter show just last month, we announced that Bill Helicopter is going to be using the TB17 and the new Jet Ranger 505 program. And so that's pretty exciting. And then for our larger batteries, we did receive a couple of Transport Canada STCs for the TB44 battery, and that was in the Dash 8 and also the Twin Otter. And we're working on a couple of other STCs, including STC for the Cessna Caravan. So a lot of activity right now with our lithium batteries. We're really excited about the OEMs that have signed on with us, and it's really the wave of the future with this technology.
You know, we've got a few minutes, Tom, and Midcontinent also does a lot with panel-mounted instruments, and I want to go back to this Part 23 rewrite because it's being called by a lot of people really a sea change in the way things like instruments are going to be certified for general aviation aircraft. How is this going to affect your business at Midcontinent?
You know, hopefully it will allow us to get certification a little bit easier by investing less money into it. Of course, we will go through all the requirements to make sure that we have a safe product for pilots to use, but in Part 23 aircraft, you know, like right now, for example, there's a lot of perf and lightning requirements that we test our equipment to. It seems like year after year, those levels of perf and lightning requirements keep going up and up and up, and it's becoming more costly, more expensive to go ahead and meet those requirements. But you have to look at it and say, is it really necessary in a Part 23 to have such high perf and lightning levels in your product? If the rewrite allows that requirement to be maybe decreased a bit, that will benefit all the avionics manufacturers that make equipment that's used in Part 23 aircraft. That's one example. I'm sure that there's many more, but you know, still, we're going to be seeing the industry we're going to be providing very safe equipment. All the manufacturers will, so I think it will be very beneficial to us.
I want to talk with you also just a moment about the announcement that was made during Sun and Fun with the EAA and Dynon and being able to put those kinds of instruments into certified airplanes. I've heard that that's a really big deal, and I've heard that it's not such a big deal. What's your position on that?
I think we need to take a look at it and kind of get a better understanding of where that is really going to take us. My first thought is that we invest a lot of money into certification with our Level A software, for example, and our standby attitude module. And we go to those particular levels so that it's easier for our installers, our customers that are doing the installations, to be able to install those without too much more certification requirements. When we start seeing a non-certified unit be installed into a certified aircraft, we have to start to wonder, why is it so easy to be able for them to do that without going through the same type of testing and certification that we've gone through with our own products? So like I said, we need to kind of get a better understanding of where that's really going to go, and if there is a way for us to use it to benefit some of our certifications.
Do you see, as you kind of look down the road a little bit, with this whole change in the certification process, do you see that having a major impact overall in things like avionics? Is that going to be something that causes a big explosion, and will it also perhaps help with the ADS-B 2020 mandate as those certification of those products becomes easier?
Yeah, I think the thing is that who it's really going to benefit is the aircraft owner, because of the fact that if you're able to take a non-certified piece of equipment and certify it into a Part 23 aircraft, for example, that could only benefit the aircraft owner by lowering the cost of certifications and things like that. So if that's a benefit, that's great. That works out for the industry. And hopefully that will allow some of the future products to come out for the mandates, as you said, like ADS-B. Hopefully that will drive the cost down so that people don't hesitate to wait until 2020 to have that installation complete. They can find a solution for their aircraft, get it installed, meet the requirements, and then once the mandate comes about, everybody will be prepared for it and benefit from it.
Well, Tom, I hope you have a good rest of your show here. We've got about a day to go, and looks like you've got some good things to show folks. So wish you all the best of luck, and thanks for taking some time to talk with us today.
All right. Very enjoyable. Thanks for the opportunity.
Aero-News Network's coverage of the 59th Annual AEA International Convention and Trade Show, live from Orlando, Florida, is brought to you in part by the following sponsors.
Are you stall smart? Ever since Orville and Wilbur took to the skies, pilots have been taught that the more airspeed you have, the better off you are. But over the last 100 plus years, we've learned that's not always the case. Take stalls, for example. The common belief is that if you have sufficient airspeed, the aircraft won't stall. The fact is, an airfoil always stalls at the same critical angle of attack in relation to the relative airflow, regardless of airspeed, configuration, or weight. Learn more at aspenavionics.com. Concorde's recombinant gas RG series sealed battery technology produces a high-performance battery with the advantages of being pre-tested and fully charged at the factory. Find out more about Concorde's entire line of batteries at www.concordebattery.com. Concorde, the heart of your aircraft.